You are listening to the Maddox Podcast, hosted by the Maddox Real Estate Team, Jason Maddox, Jamie Abitia, and Katrina Pryor, presented by Painless Podcast. To learn more about our services, check out our website at maddoxrealestate.com. Today's episode is one we've been waiting to do for a while. Now that we are all vaccinated and returning to a sense of normalcy, we are finally able to incorporate traveling to businesses back into our podcasts. When we are not helping clients find their dream homes, the Maddox team is usually looking for their next great wine tasting experience. Our search eventually led us to perhaps our favorite Richmond wine destination, Riggers Loft. Sitting on the edge of the San Francisco Bay on Canal Boulevard, Riggers Loft creates an atmosphere that blends wine and music together for a truly unique wine tasting adventure that has to be experienced by any wine lover in the Bay Area. Today, we talk with the founders of Riggers Loft, Barbara and Kevin Brown, on how they not only brought Riggers Loft to life, but how they built it into the winery that it is today. Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast. Today we're here with Barbara and Kevin at the Riggers Loft Winery in Richmond, California. And we're really interested to learn about you guys and your winery, what you have going on here. I hope that we can have bring a lot more business to you guys now post-pandemic, or as we end this and there's a light at the end of the tunnel with these vaccinations. So let's learn a little bit about you guys. How did you decide to embark on this journey of opening your own winery?
You want me to?
Go right ahead.
So this particular iteration, winemaking is like a hobby gone awry. It takes on its own dynamics and it goes out of control, and then it becomes this all-consuming thing that you're doing. So we had originally been in Alameda. That's where we started as a winery. I'd been on the East Coast. I'd been commuting every month. Then we decided we needed to be out here to be where the wine was, on a regular basis.
What you said was where the grapes grow.
Where the grapes grow.
That's cool.
So we moved out here back in 2004. But the interesting thing about all of this is that the winery iterations, there have been several. So we started in Alameda, and we were there for a while. Then we left Alameda, and we moved up to Sonoma, and we were there for a while. Then we moved back to Alameda, and we were there for a while. And then finally, we had been sharing some space with Rockwall, which was Ken Rosenblum, and a new iteration of what he'd been doing after we sold Rosenblum, where I had been for 14 years. So we were looking for a production space, and we ended up stumbling into here, the Riggers Loft. And then in 2014, that's when we signed the contract for this place, began the renovations and changing things around.
And I should say that ever before this place, we never had our own place. We were always part of somebody else's setup, whether it was a cooperative type situation or whatever it was. And, we always wanted our own space, and then this, just beautifully fell in our laps. And so since 2016 is when we opened the tasting room here, and it's been wonderful. And we always knew that, having been a part of cooperatives, we knew that we wanted to keep that going. Kevin talked about the artist colony kind of thing, and so we really do believe in that. And so again, we've got 4 wineries. Our brand is R&B Cellars, and there's Carica Wines, and they've been with us since the beginning. Prima Materia, they're the newest ones to join us, and
which is Italian varietals. Wachira Wines, they are more traditional California varietals, but with kind of an African bent. The owner and principal winemaker from there, she's from Kenya. And then we also have Far West Cider. So, we have a fun amalgamation of different folks with different takes on how they do.
Yeah, and that's all housed under Riggers Loft. Now, where does that name come from? Was that already established?
That's the name of this building. So this is an historic building, part of the Kaiser Shipyard, World War II. It really was kind of the support center for all of the building of the Victory and the Liberty ships. And much of the inside of the ships were constructed in here and then lifted into the hulls of the ships and then finished out there. But this was, that's why on the side of the building you'll see sheet metal, you'll see painting. There's just all these different locations of this building that was the support center, really.
So much history.
So the riggers were like the rigging in a ship. piecing that together. The riggers designed the slings and such that lifted these prefabricated portions of the ship and put them into place, so that the big change for Henry Kaiser, for the Kaiser shipyard, from what everybody used to know, is Rosie the Riveter. They went away from riveting because that took so long. It took 90 days to make a ship. They went to welding. And welding ships, they could turn out a ship in about 30 days. So actually, the record for turning a ship out at the Kaiser shipyard during World War II was 4.5 days.
Wow.
They built a ship like the Red Oak Victory that you're seeing over there and launched it, and those ships were somewhere between 85 and 92% completed. So you're talking finish work. You're not talking major stuff. And this was done in 4.5 days. They wanted to see how fast could they do it if they put everything into one ship. So this place, they did electrical, they did welding, they did sheet metal, they did painting, they did the designing of the slings. I mean, all of it within the space that we are.
So obviously, when we got this building, we leased it from the city of Richmond. There really wasn't a whole lot of thought about what the name was going to be. We really had to keep this name. I mean, we wanted to keep the name because of the rich history. And it just works.
So you guys said this opened, you got it in about 2014, opened in 2016 for the tasting room.
Mm-hmm.
But when did your passion for winemaking start? I mean, it sounds like you have a rich history before this actual place.
So the winery dates back to 1997, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, in my previous life, I was a jazz pianist in New York. It was a great way not to make a living at the time. And so, doing things like, retail jobs to help supplement what you're doing. So finally I said, there's got to be a better way. And so a friend of mine who was working for a wine wholesaler says, you've always loved wine, you're a great salesman, because I was selling hi-fi. None of you were old enough to know what hi-fi is, but that was stereo equipment back in the day. And so I was selling things like that, right? And so it was like, okay, I'll start selling wine. So I did that, and I was selling wine in New York to restaurants and to retail outlets. Then I ended up in the national department, going around and representing the wholesalers. Then I'm going internationally. Before I know it, I'm all over the world doing this stuff. And, everything goes out of control. It's like I said, it's kind of amoebic. It starts off as this little thing, and before you know it, it's taken over everything that you're doing. And as part of all of this, you tend to get more deeply involved all the time. And in my association with Rosenblum Cellars, Kent Rosenblum, I started getting into the winemaking side of things. Excuse me, because Kent was always very generous about that. And then that's how we started R&B. When I was there and just making Cabernet, and then we went from Cabernet, decided to leave Rosenblum, and then we added in Zinfandel and Syrah and Sauvignon Blanc, and before you knew it, we were doing 18 different wines, and it all just further went out of control.
So most wineries will try to pair wine with food, but Riggers Loft, you pair wine with music. So can you tell us a little bit about what you were talking about earlier about the experience and creating experiences?
Well, let's just explain that with a caveat in that we don't really pair wine with music so much as that what we want to do is make the wine and the whole thing about the experience, and that things that are experiential. If you ask, and I get asked this question at wine dinners a fair amount, and that is, what's the best bottle of wine you've ever had? And the best bottle of wine is never about the actual bottle that you drank. It's about the people that you shared it with. So now it becomes the experience, and that's what makes it memorable. And sometimes you might have a bottle of wine that might be rated higher or that somebody thinks more highly of, but at the same time, if you have it with a lousy group of people, it diminishes the experience of what you did with that bottle. So for us, what we try to do, and my wife Barbara is mostly responsible for this, is that she books all of the music that comes here, is that, she goes through and she's always trying to bring different varieties of acts and different music, different musicians all the time, so that there's a different flavor when you come here. And we're constantly surprised at that. She books something, she thinks, I think it's going to appeal to this, this segment of our customers. And it's a whole different segment that goes absolutely nuts about it.
There's just no accounting for taste in any way, shape, and form, and everybody is different. And so the wine that they like on any given day can change. And so the music that they like is, so we try to incorporate as much, as many different styles of music, and then of course we offer all of these different styles of wine as well.
Right.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot that goes into creating this atmosphere and this experience for folks. That was obviously one of the things that really drew me into Riggers Loft, not just the first time I was here, but coming back, time and time again. And it does feel like every time I come, there's something different. So there's a different wine to try, or a new cider that, to experience, different genres of music. And so it does feel that you have a high level of interest in the experience that you're providing folks, from the events that you have, what we were just talking about. What really attracted me is that I could bring my kids here and know that they're in a safe, welcoming environment. I can bring my mom. I can bring grandma. You can bring your dog. And it's one of those very few places where anybody can come and feel welcomed, and feel like, okay, well, this isn't an area this isn't a place that I would feel comfortable bringing my mom to. That's not the case at all. And it really bodes well to say that all are welcome, and the environment and the atmosphere that you create is really something that's quite special and really unique.
Thank you. Then we've clearly succeeded.
Yes,
in our goal, so.
Absolutely. One of the draws for me also is what you do with some of the events that you have. So maybe you can talk a little bit about 4th of July and New Year's and some of the bands that you bring in on any given occasion, if you don't mind sharing a lot. Because that's something that was new to me. I was like, oh, okay, it's a winery. But the amount of talent that you also bring in is really exceptional.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of talent around here in the East Bay and the whole Bay Area. So that's easy. That's easy to draw that in. So July 4th is actually on July 3rd, our celebration here, and that's when Richmond puts on their big fireworks, and it's off on the,
It's in the estuary over here that would lead up to Terminal 4.
And we've got our whole outdoor production area, which is where the grapes are crushed and all of that stuff in the fall. But that's where we hold that, and we tell everybody, bring your folding chairs, and it's kind of like Kevin likes to call it, like a beach. Yeah. And then we have all of these food trucks that we bring in, and
a video truck for the kids.
A video game truck for the kids. But meanwhile, for years now, we've had Andre Thierry, the Zydeco King, who is playing here tonight. We've always had him play. And so he's usually staged inside. And so there's all this dancing going on inside. And then there's all of these people out there who are just hanging out on the beach, if you will. And then at 9 o'clock or so, the fireworks start. And it's just really a fun event, and we've had it every year. One
of the differences about us is that we do limit it. We stop it at about 400 people. We don't want it to be packed in like sardines. We want everybody to have space. We want them to enjoy themselves. We want them to be able to enjoy the ebb and flow of humanity that runs through this place on that day.
Yeah.
And people forget that this isn't public space, it's private space. And it used to be, people always had the idea that you could just come down. But we try to set it up so that people can enjoy themselves, have a good time, don't feel like it's pressured in any way. And it's just relax, enjoy yourself, experience the moment. It's the most spectacular way to enjoy the fireworks because they're literally right over your head.
Yeah, right. It really is incredible. And New Year's, we come on New Year's, there's the big balloon drop. Again, just another opportunity for the family to come and get together. But you don't just provide just a phenomenal experience in terms of music and events, but this is a very serious winemaking process. I'd love to hear a bit more from you about the types of wine, but also the winemaking production that you have really on site that folks are coming through and are really immersed in by being here.
They certainly see it because as you see the tanks are there, so they certainly see a lot of action when they're here. And then in the fall, if we're actively crushing, then, we have little, sort of mini tours, and people can come out and just watch us, and after 5 minutes they've seen it, but it is a lot of fun.
But the difference with our tasting room is that you're actually part of the winemaking of what's going on. So we don't separate it with a wall or a glass partition or anything. We want you to be involved. We want it to be immersive, that you're into it, which is kind of fun. So the fruit comes in, all the fruit comes here, all the wine is made here, it's crushed out back, it's sorted, crushed, pressed, then in barrels in here. All the barrels that you see around you are not decorative. They are, in fact, in use and being used all the time. It's very handy. You get people come in, and let's say they're digging on our Cabernets and say, oh, you know what? We're going to be bottling this lot of Cabernet, so we'll take people over and they do a little barrel tasting. I mean, it's the fun thing of getting to do some of that more hands-on kind of touch, what we just did before with the Sauvignon Blanc out of the tank.
Yeah.
That you get to dive into places that normally you don't get to. At a lot of places, it has to be, well, I set up a special tour and they charge me a certain amount of money to be a part of it, and blah, 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 blah.
And that can also happen, but a lot of this is just very spontaneous.
Yeah.
You want it to be something that wine's a beverage, okay? It's another beverage of choice. You didn't choose water, you didn't choose milk, you didn't choose Coke, you chose wine, okay? People have a tendency to make wine a little too kind of hoity-toity or too special. It is special in that anything that's well done is special, but at the same time, it should just be another beverage of choice. It shouldn't be something that you have to have certain credentials to understand it or know it better. It's like the music you like, or the art you like, or the books you like to read. It's what you like. It's personal opinion, and you should be confident in that. You should always be willing to try new ones or try new things. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll say, I don't like that. So one of my favorite stories, I tell it at almost every wine dinner I've ever done, is the guy walks into the store and the owner of the store says, hey, I have a wine for you to try. And the guy says, oh, would you like to try it? He says, yes, okay, I'll try it. So the guy tests it. Oh my God, that's awful. And the owner of the store says, wow, that's really weird. The wine advocate gave it 94 points. And the guy says, I'll take 2 cases. The point being that he didn't trust his own palate. He did based on what somebody else scored it with. And what his reaction was is he didn't like the wine. Doesn't mean you're right or wrong. What it means is for you, that wasn't a 94-point wine, and that's an okay response.
Right.
Just trust your palate, trust what you like, enjoy what you like.
Exactly. We always say we like what we like.
Yep.
And sometimes you can take the labels off and you can take the points away, and we might like, this particular one over this. It doesn't have anything to do about the price of the bottle, who it's made, where it's made, what region it comes from, the temperature. We're just like, this is delicious, and we love it. And what I like about a lot of the folks that you have that work with you is I can come up to the bar and say, I want something a little fruit forward, not too dry. What do you have for me? And they will always, there's just exceptional opinions that they'll give, and I'll try a couple, and they're always spot on. They can just hear kind of.
We've got a great tasting fruit.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just, like I said, I like what I like, and I can kind of describe it, and they'll nail it every time when they pour me something. I'm like, I love it. Fill her up.
But that's the important part is you like what you like, and that's all you have to be confident in. And if you don't like something, don't worry. Don't feel any discomfort in saying, nope, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Just mean that particular
And it's just a great
not for me.
atmosphere to feel like you don't have to be, you don't have to come in, dressed in your nines. I can come in jeans and come in here and just have a really amazing experience. I'd love to hear about the cider, how you're affiliated with R&B Cellars, and I know that there's a couple other wines that you also have that you're partnering with here. We'd love to hear about that as well.
Well, we are R&B Cellars, so that we're the owners and winemakers of R&B Cellars. So that is our brand.
Okay.
In addition to Riggers Loft, the overarching facility.
Exactly. Far West Cider has been with us. Adam Cinciola is the cider maker, and he's been with us almost since the beginning. And he gets all of his apples from a family farm down in, I always forget,
Great.
So
Now you put me
it's
on.
down south somewhere.
And I blow it.
Anyway.
They're Central Coast.
Central
they're
Coast,
delicious.
and it's apparently been in the family for generations.
4
now.
generations.
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
So now I think he's really the first one who has now said, okay, I'm going to make cider.
Well, he's the first to do the cider.
Yeah, exactly. And he's really super creative. Came out with, from the get-go, came out with about 3 or 4 standard ciders that he's kept going because they're just so popular. But he's always coming up, it feels like every month or something, coming up with some other fruit to add to it. I think you mentioned blueberry or something.
My sister,
I don't know, but it could very well
yes,
be.
I love the guava, and I think there was
That's a
another
big
time that there was
popular
a watermelon, maybe.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Watermelon at one time.
Watermelon and lime.
Yes, and then my sister just came maybe a week or 2 ago, and she said something about. And this is just conversation. I didn't even tell her we were doing a podcast here. She goes, "Oh, so I went to Riggers Loft, and now they have." So it's like a topic of conversation. It's like whatever new, variety is out, and so she said something about a blueberry or a blackberry, and I'm just
It's
like,
a blueberry, and he's got a couple of new ones that they're just on tap. So he'll make small lots, and experiments to try different things, all of which is a lot of fun. He's got his first can conditioned cider that he's done. So what happens is the second fermentation actually takes place in the can.
Okay.
So it's can conditioned is what it's called. So he's always playing and doing something different.
yeah,
which
and
is
so
fun.
every time you come, again, it's a new tasting experience. So it's really incredible.
Well, and just in the wines, we have over 40 different wines here on any given day.
Between the 4 different
Between all the different
wineries.
wineries, so you get a chance to try different things. So you could come in one day and say, I'm only doing white wines. Or you could come in one day and say, I'm only doing
Sparkling.
Cabernets, or I'm only doing Sparklings, or I'm only doing Zinfandels, or
And you've got a lot to
and
choose
you have
from.
lots of things to choose from. And you could do a series of things just in any of those different iterations of what you said you wanted to explore.
Now, out of those 40 or so, do you find that any are more popular? People are always coming back for, 1 or 2 of them?
I think that in terms of R&B, and that's what we sort of track the most, just because that's our brand. We have a few that are super popular. I would say the Improviser, which is our Zin-based red blend, that is, since the beginning of making that, it's been super popular. Our Cabernets, our Napa Valley Reserve Cabernets, have a huge following, and they're just, I think they're stunning wines. And we have a whole series of white wines too that are really popular. Lately, our sparkling has really taken off. So we've got
Well, we brought that back. We hadn't done that in a while. We'd kind of taken a break from it.
But we brought it back, and it's just going great guns. So we've got a white sparkling and a rosé sparkling, and it's method champenoise. So it really is champagne. It's just we can't call it that because we are not in Champagne. We are here in California. So
Well, we'll have to try those tonight. We're
yeah.
coming back tonight to try all of these.
Absolutely.
yeah, come back to see Andre.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Now, there's also, you have a food menu also, and you always have a catering partner that you work with. So I know that when I've come in the past, there's been, food trucks. And so again, it's not just wine, but you can also do your own food pairing based on the selections. Can you talk a little bit about the partnership that you have with the caterer?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a number of food partners since the beginning, since 2016, and it seems like we've really hit on something, just to have a caterer from a restaurant, dedicated. Most of their preparation is done in their own kitchen, and then they bring it here and do the last minute preparation and heating on site in the back of the winery, and that's just, I don't know, it just adds so much more when you can actually have food and wine together. We talk with him, his name is Mark, and we talk with him about, what kinds of foods pair well with wines, different kinds of wines. So he keeps that in mind.
Yeah.
But again, there's so many different styles of wine, so therefore he has kind of an eclectic menu, and that changes, from time to time as well.
But
specials.
you want lighter things, you want, kind of mid-weight things, and you want heavier things depending on what somebody wants. So the one point that I wanted to make is we are what you would call a destination. Okay, nobody walks by us to get to anywhere else, unless you're dumping a body in the bay.
Diving into
right?
the bay.
Aside from that, you're coming here to come and see us, and so you want it so that if somebody comes here, they have an ability to, I'm hungry. So Mark makes everything from bar snacks to a charcuterie plate to beef stroganoff. And, there's all different kinds of things that fall within those different weight categories of a full meal or a light repast and desserts as well. So you can go whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah. Now, you guys mentioned being big on artistry and stuff like that. How do you design your wine labels? Do you pair up with anybody to design your labels?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So let me just start with saying that all of the we're both musicians.
Yeah.
So classical and jazz musicians. So we happen to possess a number of beautiful paintings by an artist named Mimi Stewart, and they're all a part of her Musical Gems series. And they're just lovely, lovely paintings, usually with a treble clef and notes kind of shooting.
Or a bass clef.
One of them has a bass clef, the Syrah does. So a number of years ago, we decided to incorporate all of those paintings onto our labels. And so every wine has its own painting. And it's a great, beautiful place to start. So the artwork is lovely. And again, her name is Mimi Stewart. And you can go to mimiart.com and check out all this stuff.
Well, she's referenced via our website as she referenced us. I mean, she's an old friend. I met her when I was at Rosenblum Cellars and fell in love with her artwork and bought the first ones that we owned when I was there, when she was initially being discovered as an artist. And, how many do we have now? 14 or something like that. We have a ridiculous number of these things, which they're gorgeous. And now she's on permanent display at the Smithsonian, at the Air and Space Museum. She's at all these galleries and museums around the country. She does, things for Hollywood stars and sports stars and, Buzz Aldrin, from, the astronauts. I mean, she's just got this incredible following now. And she was so excited when we said we would use her paintings for the labels. And she said, I only have one request. And she said that you still give me wine for when I do gallery openings to do new things so that I can showcase your wines and the artwork to go along with it. So she's a doll and has been wonderful, her whole family, and we would never use anything else.
That's wonderful.
And so then the other part of that is our graphic designer,
who I hear is fantastic.
Yes, he is. He's
Greg
awesome.
Canales,
yes. Yes, and he's a very dear friend.
Yeah.
And so he has been our graphic designer for years and years, and our labels have evolved under his
they're gorgeous.
Vision.
Guidance.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we have yet a new kind of look to them in the last, I'd say maybe 6 months or so, that we're really, really excited about.
Showcases the art a little bit more.
Oh, it really does.
It does. Yeah. It's really distinctive. I mean, they're beautiful. The labels are beautiful.
And they say something about who we are. So, a lot of wineries try to find some kind of kitschy thing to, the Red Wagon winery, and there's a red wagon somewhere on the property or something.
Or something like that.
Our labels certainly say something about who we are as people and our
And every
passions.
wine says something about who we are, and each wine has its own musical term to describe what it is. And it describes the wine, but it's also, this is reflective of who we are as a couple, as a family, and what our history is.
Well, it's interesting. This is obviously family, right? Family business, as is ours. But so what is it like working, being partners, husband and wife?
We're still married.
We're still married.
He doesn't want to kill me.
I mean, it has its benefits. It has its challenges.
It does.
Right?
I mean, I wouldn't change anything. But there are times.
There always are. There always are.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, it's something that it comes from you both being partners, obviously in a relationship, but also in business. And I think that your love for music, love for wine, love for food, you really feel that in coming in this space and having this experience.
What do you both love most about what you do? I mean, you're obviously passionate about all of this, but what do you love most about it?
The people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the people is definitely the answer. I mean, all the different folks that you get to meet and the experiences you get to share with them or help guide them through.
We've made so many great friends through this winery.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the people.
I'm sure you get to see a lot. You were just mentioning getting to see somebody turn 100 and have their 100th birthday here, right?
Yeah, this is a wine club member, her mom, and they brought her here a couple of times, and what a sweet lady, and just so much fun to visit with. And she ended up having her 100th birthday, and they came down to be part of the celebration of her doing that. And it was just 100 years old. I'm saying, wow, I hope I even get remotely close to that.
Yeah.
Didn't you buy her a...
Oh, yeah. We pulled out some library wines for her for that. Are you
She's
kidding?
never forgotten. She's
you get to
always
100,
talking about
you
it.
deserve that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness.
So for some folks that are listening who've never been here, I'm obviously a huge fan. I think in every podcast I
know,
bring
I'm just
up,
about to hire you.
I bring up Riggers Loft, I think, in every podcast because we're always talking about wine, and I'm like, R&B Cellars, Riggers Loft. What would you like to project? What would you want to tell somebody or share with somebody about this place to welcome them to come for their experience here?
This is all about the experience. And you get to kind of craft it the way you want it to be. I mean, if you looked at pre-COVID, you could come and just listen to the music. You could come and watch the Ospreys. You could come and play ping pong or board games. Everybody has a different kind of idea of what it is you want to do. There's no expectations. It's set your own pace, set your own style. There's enough variety that you've got a blank canvas, paint the picture. And the fun thing, and I described this to people because they asked, they say, well, what's the difference here? I said, well, take 5 people, put them out on that patio, have them look at that beautiful view of the bay and say, paint what you see. You will get 5 different paintings because everybody sees it slightly differently than everybody else does. That's exactly what we want the experience here to be. You make it your experience. And that way you're going to go home saying, it was everything I wanted it to be. Not what somebody else expected it to be or forced you to experience. Sure. So that's the important part.
That's great.
I love that.
And you had mentioned wine club memberships. What does that include?
So we send out packages 4 times a year. Or we have wine pickup parties, and we will actually be able to have a wine club pickup party in July.
Those are wild.
Yeah. So
we need to go to a wine pickup party.
We're going to be going to a
you
wine
have to be
pickup
a member
party.
first.
Yes, we will be a member. I'll be a member right now.
That's easy. That's easy. Yeah, we'll sign you up. So you can choose between different levels. There's a lower level, which is, we call it trio. You can choose all reds, all whites, or you get just a combination of a couple reds and a white. And then there's an upper level called Big Band Reserve. Same thing. You can do reds only if you like.
So trio because it's 3 bottles, but also trio and jazz trio.
Right. I love the musician part.
It's called the Blue Note Wine Club. So
love that.
everything's musical. All of our bottles for wine club members is 25% off all the time. Except for a month after receiving your wine, you can choose any of the wines that are in the wine club packages and get 30% off. Every time you come to the winery, you get a free glass of wine.
Nice.
Lovely.
Which is nice. And you can come every day if you like.
You get to come to the pickup parties, and that's included, and that's food and music and wine. And you get to try any of the wines that are in any of the clubs. So it doesn't matter whether you're a trio member, you get to try the wines in the big band, or big band, you can try all the wines in the trio. You just get a chance to try
And then all of those are available to you for 30% off for the next month. What else?
I mean, I'm sold already.
I'm sold on that.
You get discounts to, different events and things that we do, like the July 3rd thing. There's a club member price. There's, when we do the Fleet Week, there's a club member price. So, I mean, there are special things for that. There are special wines that we put together that are only done for the wine club. So we did a special bottling of 07 Cabernet, 2010 Cabernet, that the only people that got that were wine club members. It wasn't available to the general public at all.
And then, in terms of reservations and stuff, we, because of our socially distanced seating, it does fully book. And so, we give priority to the wine club members.
And then what are your normal hours of operation, or at least right now, what are your hours?
Right now, so it's Thursday, 4 to 7, Friday, 4 to 8, Saturday, 1 to 8, and Sunday, 1 to 7.
Lovely.
And musicians, you mentioned on certain days you'll have musicians that are...
Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Friday, it's generally the music is from 4 to 7, so the whole time that we're open. And wherever possible, we stage it outside. So unless it's really, actively raining or it's just super cold and windy, it's going to be outside.
With beautiful views of the bay and the bridge.
You just need to know to dress warm.
Yeah.
And then Saturday and Sunday, the music is from 2 to 5.
Okay. Well, and this is also on your website at riggersloftwine.com.
Right.
I noticed that you have all of the operating hours also on the website.
There's also a calendar so you can see what the upcoming musical acts are. We do a wide variety of different kinds of music. Like I said, we're trying to always kind of change up the experience a bit. So always look and see, what's available, but we're also big on supporting local musicians as much as we possibly can.
All our musicians are local.
They're all local folks, so we encourage people to be generous in their tipping. It's all about supporting, local community. Community is community, whether it's within how far you can throw a baseball to, a city limits to a state or whatever. It's the community, and you want to support and try and make sure that everybody does okay, especially in the weird times of now.
Absolutely.
So the best way to make a reservation is to do an advanced reservation, because we often book out ahead of time, and that's to info@rbcellars.com. That's the best way to do it. And
excellent.
We'll remember that. Well, we would like to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. This has been fantastic.
It's been our pleasure.
We absolutely love
Thank
it.
you.
This is going to be in my new home, so
You'll be seeing a lot of us.
a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's
You're
been
very
a
welcome.
pleasure.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to come back tonight.
We'll be here. Exactly.
Thank you for listening to the Maddox Podcast. Thank you to our producer, Sam Lubman of Painless Podcast, for helping make this podcast possible. We started this podcast so we could share our real estate insights, as well as provide our listeners with a chance to get to know the Maddox team. Our goal is to make our clients' real estate sale or purchase as simple as possible, allowing them to sit back while we handle the hard work. To learn more about what we do or to look up resources about the Bay Area communities, visit our website at maddoxrealestate.com or give us a call at 510-993-0688.